Hi, my name is Hallar Azad. I'm the founder and CEO of Mixzil. Mixzil is a virtual reality software company, and we build gaming products and enterprise products for training purposes. So I believe that augmented reality and virtual reality are the two sides of the same coin, which is called mixed reality. And I think mixed reality is going to dominate when it comes to training, in particular for the modern industries. I think it is going to play a fundamental role in the education of mechanical workers and engineers working at these industries. So I think it has huge potential when it comes to mechanical training, education, and I think it can also play a pivotal role for training of nurses and doctors.
In your opinion, how relevant are these immersive technologies for Pakistan industrial sectors such as manufacturing, energy, healthcare, and construction?
So I think for Pakistan, the gains are there, but I think it has to be a policy change, and not just at the government level but at the companies level too. The companies have to adopt this technology for the training of their manufacturing workers, and like I said, for the global modern industry, the same things do apply in the Pakistani market as well. And I think the potential that it has for manufacturing training, for healthcare training, the Pakistani industry can definitely take an advantage from that.
What are some practical applications of AR, VR, and digital twins that Pakistani industries can adopt to improve productivity, training, and operational efficiency?
So some of the applications that we've worked with that apply in the Pakistani market is education for kids. So for example, we built an app that takes students, fifth graders, on the moon and teaches them about the moon in using an interactive experience where there's an animated robot that kids love, and he guides them throughout the experience about what the moon is, what they can see there, and like the footprints and the gravity. So they learn everything about that. So I think one of the strong applications is in education in schools. Apart from that, we've also done marketing through virtual reality with brands like Unilever, who set up virtual reality arcade activations around around all over Pakistan at malls, and just to give their users, customers, fans an opportunity to connect with their brand in a more engaging manner. So these are the two examples, but of course, virtual reality can bring a lot of benefit to all of the industries. For example, for language learning, there are apps today where you can literally interact with AI like you do with a human to improve your English language or any other languages that are being taught in Pakistan, like Spanish, French, and Chinese.
Right. Like what kind of skills and expertise will be required for Pakistani engineers and professionals to effectively work on these emerging technologies? What skills are required?
So, as far as using these technologies is concerned, I think you don't really need a highly technical skill. You just need to familiarize yourself with how it works, like you do with a mobile or a new laptop. Once you familiarize with the platform, it's pretty straightforward afterwards. But if you want to develop for this technology, then the important tools to learn are Unity, Unreal Engine, Blender, and apart from that, you also need to learn programming languages like C Sharp, C++, Blueprints, and that will help you to design and develop the gameplay environments that are used in the virtual reality.
Right. Opportunities for innovation. Do you see opportunities for local startups and technology companies in Pakistan to develop AR and VR and digital twin solutions?
So I see a lot of opportunities in the Pakistani market for startups, but I have to say that when it comes to Pakistan, it's a pretty tough market for virtual reality today. Even the companies are reluctant at adopting it because the overall education for their staff is not there, and the cost is like it is difficult for developers to justify the cost versus benefit to the companies here. There are still some companies, one of the bigger companies that are already adopting this, like Unilever, Nestle. They have started utilizing virtual reality for their training purposes. But apart from that, it's hard to work with the big players, and with the medium or small players, it's very difficult to convince them to adopt this technology. So there are opportunities, but I would say that the startups or entrepreneurs that do want to work in this industry should be focusing on the global market rather than on focusing on Pakistani market.
What are the major challenges industries in Pakistan may face in adopting immersive technologies? Example, cost, infrastructure, skill, or awareness?
So, from our experience, we've understood that the biggest challenge that companies and industries face is the cost. And even though the cost is like, I believe that the cost is absolutely worth it. For the software development, for the training of the staff to use virtual reality, and for purchasing all the hardware that is required. But our companies today look at virtual reality adoption and they compare it with the physical training. When, for example, they invite a speaker to conduct like a 5-day workshop of their staff, that usually is far more affordable for the companies than virtual reality. But I think the companies have started to see the benefit of using virtual reality over these physical workshops. So I think they are adopting it now. So the costs include the hardware purchase. The biggest cost is from the software that if you want to develop your custom software, that would be the biggest cost. And if you rent a software, I think the software can be more affordable. But then the biggest cost is from hardware purchases, and the rest is just training your staff, and that's not going to be a bigger cost. So staff training, hardware purchase, and software are going to be the main costs.
Right. How can universities and research institute contribute to accelerating the adoption of AR and VR and digital twin technology in industry?
I think universities can play a pivotal role, and the best thing they can do is introduce some courses related to virtual and augmented reality development. If they equip their students with the knowledge of virtual reality, and if universities has the labs where students can at least experience and start prototyping some minor experiences for virtual reality, that will create a pool of developers and engineers and ultimately reduce the cost of development, because the talent will be more talent will be available in the market. So yeah, universities do have a role to play here.
Right. Okay. What type of government policies or incentives would help industry invest in immersive technologies?
I think government needs to make it easy to order virtual reality headsets from abroad. So, for example, today it is very difficult for developers who want to work on the most advanced hardware in virtual reality to order it from US, UK, or anywhere in the world, because there's a lot of custom beauty on these devices, and sometimes it's even higher than the price of the hardware. So I think the government needs to play some role there.
Right. How do you envision the future of AR and VR and digital twin technologies in Pakistan's industrial ecosystem over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think in the next 5 years we may not see aggressive adoption, but clearly over the next 10 years, that at least as far as the training industry is concerned, whether it is for the industries in manufacturing or anywhere else, I think mixed reality is going to dominate, because the smart glasses with mixed reality will be a lot more common, along with the integration of AI assistants or agents. So I think the 10 years are going to be a very definitive moment for mixed reality.
Right. If someone is going to start a startup in AR or VR and digital twins, so what would be the basic steps that a person can take?
So I think if there's any entrepreneur who wants to start like a small business with VR, they need to look at it from a problem solving point of view. So virtual reality is cool, but they need to define a very specific problem that they are going to solve. So, for example, we have worked with many clients across the world to, for example, solve architectural visualization problems. There are real estate firms that want to show their customers how a building or an apartment would look like before it's being constructed. That's a problem that virtual reality can solve. If you want to train cricketers to improve their eye contact with the ball, that's a problem that can be solved with virtual reality. So similarly, you entrepreneurs need to define one specific problem and then start exploring around that. So there may already exist many solutions around that problem. So depending on the competition, they should choose what they where's the gap and what gap they can fill.
Right. Okay. My next question will be that if a student is trying to like he's coming to this field in AR and VR and digital twin, so obviously the equipment is very expensive, way too expensive, the VRs and the other expense. So how can he manage? He still need to work on this. So do you see any opportunities here in like Pakistan if a student can go learn and use the equipments of the company, or he has to buy his own?
I think, like we talked about universities, the universities can play a important role here, where there may be virtual reality labs at the universities. So, for example, if you're talking about students, they may be studying at the university. If they have a lab at the university, they can fundamentally rent out from university, or maybe just like they students take a book from the library. So similarly, this can also work, but I personally believe that students should be able to afford a VR headset today, because I see that university students are paying like over 100,000 rupees or even over 300,000 rupees to purchase a mobile phone. And the cost of a VR headset, if we talk about Meta Quest 2, and if we talk about it like used or even the new one, is I think around 55 to 60,000 in Pakistan. So that's a very affordable cost, in my honest opinion. So yeah, I mean, if you are unable to pay anything, and if you're unable to buy it, if you're unable to rent it out, then at least just start learning game development. If you start learning game development, give your game developer services to clients around the world using freelancing, or start working with a company, get paid, try to save some money and then buy a headset. So yeah, if you're like not able to afford, the best thing you can do is to develop some skills that do not require a lot of investment, and then try to focus on earning some money, and then you can buy and take it to the next level.
What advice would you give to students, researchers, and entrepreneurs who want to build careers or startups in immersive technologies?
Okay, so my advice is that work with the global players, try to connect with Meta, Pico, Microsoft, Google. Google has their Android XR operating system now, and try to be actively involved in the VR industry. See what users are using, what's more popular, and try to use virtual reality regularly, so that you are aware of the advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons. So I think that would be my advice. If you have to be a power user for virtual reality yourself, and then you will understand a lot about the industry. So I would strongly advise and suggest to the students in particular to start learning Unity. It's super straightforward today, and Unity has their Unity MCP tools now, where you can basically ask the agent in natural language what game you want to build, and then the Unity AI tools develop that game for you, and then you can work with AI agents to polish it, and to ultimately like complete a playable game and launch it on Play Store, App Store. So I think there's a big opportunity for students, and the learning has become a lot more simpler than it used to be like 5 to 10 years ago. So yeah, if you are a student, if you're interested in virtual reality, augmented reality, go ahead and start learning Unity. Don't worry about virtual reality in the beginning because it's the same thing. Start learning game development for mobile, for PC, and ultimately you're going to use the same tools to develop for VR. I think Catch VR is what Catch VR is doing is something very important for the academics, because from what I've seen, Catch VR has worked tremendously to basically grow awareness for the industry, for the virtual reality advantages, virtual reality gains that universities can get from using this technology. And I think GetVR is also working to basically provide the same level of awareness to the industry, to the companies. So I think if GetVR continues to do that, it's also going to be very impactful for the industry. Yeah, so I think a master's degree in virtual reality sounds great. And I've seen a couple of universities from Australia, US to have these degrees as well. I think probably Virginia Tech also has one. So I think my advice would be to work with these universities who are already providing it to prepare the syllabus and prepare the outline. And yeah, I think it can be something very meaningful.
Yeah, thank you.